Alright, so let's get to the basics of what I know and what's been going on with my life in MS. I originally was a kid who had a parent who had MS. My dad had relapsing remitting, had his major motor seizure, which is usually one of the first things that happens to let you know that there's a problem. When I was just 6, I was in kindergarten. Mom yelled at me to go and call 911, so that's not something that you forget too easy. Growing up was frustrating as a kid because I didn't understand a lot. All of a sudden, Dad went from really involved, full-time job, worked hard, was always there on field days, stuff like that, to he couldn't be out in the sun. We all of a sudden couldn't really go outside and play anymore. Like, it felt like a withdrawal. And I didn't understand it, and it frustrated the heck out of me. Even as a teenager, pissy little teenager, of, oh, I'm so mad that you can't do stuff like everybody else. I could understand it to a point, but after a while it got frustrating. I regret that so bad, not because I have it now myself as an adult, but I felt like I should have been the bigger person to stop and understand that, he couldn't help this. And if you're watching this, you're probably looking for some answers and for some sympathy as well. And I want you to know that you can't help it either. So, move forward. I got married in June last year to a wonderful guy. And all of a sudden in September, I woke up to go to work and couldn't use the left side of my body. Just completely limp and dead. And I am stubborn. Anybody can ask you that. So I still tried to drive to work. I managed to limp into work, even had to pick up my leg to get over the curb. And by the time I sat down, I decided to call my doctor because it was still early. And he said, I want you to go ahead and go into the hospital because you could have had a stroke. So I stayed a couple of days. They did a stroke workup, but I had a neurologist lean over my bedside and say, honey, I am 95% sure that you have MS, but it is a diagnosis of exclusion. So we're going to have to work on you over the next couple of months, and I'm going to have to prove it that way. So from September to my diagnosis in November, we did 2 major things that really stood out. One was an MRI, and if you've never had one before, you will have to be cautious if you are claustrophobic. There is an open MRI and a closed MRI. An open MRI can still kind of be like pressing. The sides are open so you can see people and see stuff, but you are still squished underneath a giant magnet. The most that I can say is truly and sincerely close your eyes, do not open them, and go to your happy place. They will put you on a table that will move up. They'll have to push you up under there. And usually if you're getting the picture of the top part of the brain and the C-spine, which is the bottom part, they will have to put you in a mask. So I want you to be aware of that. It will be confining. It will go over the neck part, and it will go over the entire face part. That was something that I wasn't aware of. So I was ready to go to my happy place until the mask went on. But it just took me a couple deep breaths, and I went back to my beach, sipping my mental Mai Tai, and I was okay. The other thing was a spinal tap. And it doesn't super duper hurt. In fact, they didn't even really let me see the needle. What they did was they prepped you, got you in a gown, wheeled you into the room. Mine was x-ray guided. I am a larger person, I know you can tell. So they wanted to make sure that they were doing it safely. I had 2 nurses help me flat on the table, and you just kind of plank it. You lay out and you do the Superman pose. And 2 nurses got like all the tools ready and stuff. And I had one little learning nurse in there, and she grabbed my hand and she was great at it. And then the doctor that does these things 24/7 came in and did it herself. Walked in, wham bam, thank you ma'am, was done. All she said was, if something hurts, tell me immediately. It took maybe 20 minutes. Something did hurt a little bit, and she immediately moved, and it was no big thing. They got you off the table. You have to almost scoot or roll off the table. They will not let you sit up. If you sit up right after a spinal tap, you run the risk of getting something called a spinal headache, or a spinal migraine. You have to lay flat for a couple of hours. Another thing that they do is they will hold you, they at least held me for 4 hours in the hospital to try to prevent that. They also, for being a hospital and doctors, encouraged you to eat chips and drink soda. That salt retains all of that, the liquid, and they're trying to make sure that all of that is held inside the spine. Basically, you don't pop your cork is a nice way. But other than that, I mean, it's more time consuming than anything. It's more nerve grinding than anything because you're scared. The first thing that you hear is you may have MS, and you're going, what the hell is happening to me? What in the world is going on? And you have to wait months for all these different things to go on. I want you to know, if you are in the middle of these tests, you are going to be okay, okay? Either way, if it's positive or negative, there are support systems. The MS Society is a fantastic group. They help people. They will point you in the right direction. There are helplines devoted with people, nothing but people that are there to help you. And that's the whole reason that I wanted to start this, is I wanted to reach out to people who may want to just talk to a normal person and ask different questions. So it looks like there are different types of MS. That will be a talk for a different day. They think that I may have a certain type called primary progressive, but again, we will totally talk about different types another time. In the meantime, my disease modifying therapy, which is another term that you're going to hear a lot, is Copaxone, 40 milligrams, 3 times a week. Yes, more than likely you will have to give yourself shots. It's just going to be something you have to suck it up, buttercup, and move on. Please, you're going to have to find a support group. When I first started doing this, that's the big major thing I heard is, you need support. You need mental support. You need mental support. And I thought, oh my God, these people think I'm a wacko. I'm going to break down. I'm going to go crazy. No, people don't think that you're going to go crazy, but you can't do it without relying on some help. Mobility is a big issue. In a matter of months, I went from at least being a big person who I walked around my office. I could go to and from and do what I needed, to walk or wheeling out in a wheelchair. And depending on different days and different needs, I have all kinds of adaptive equipment. I have a wheelchair, I have a walker, I have a cane. Some days are better than other days, and I use different things. I have a nurse friend, Leanne, shout out to her, love her to death. She has threatened to bedazzle all of my adaptive equipment. If that's how you roll, do it. I say do it. Put your rainbow stuff on it, put your bedazzle on it, put your camo stuff on it. If you are assigned a cane, don't be afraid to own it. It's yours, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. So please, I'm going to leave that here. If you have any questions on any basic stuff, let me know. Otherwise, I will try to break down a couple of videos into different sections about stuff. I think the next one we may end up talking about the different types of MS. Like there are relapsing remitting, primary progressive, and it's different names for the way that different types of them act. If you want to take a look at it before I post the next one, you can always go and Google the MS Society. They have a great database of all this stuff on there. The Mayo Clinic is also a really good thing to look at for all that information as well. So, until then, peace out. Hope you have a great day. Knowledge is always power. Bye.